Welcome back into the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap, presented by Full Press Coverage. Sap, good news for me. My Boston Celtics are freaking rolling to start this season off. They have the best record in the NBA through 15 games. They are 12-3, sitting atop, like I said, not just the Eastern Conference, but the NBA. And they're doing it in a much different way than they did last year, which is one, playing well in the first half of the season, and two, their offense is just a juggernaut. They have they're averaging the most points per game. Right now, it would be in league history. I don't think that's going to hold, but they're averaging 120 points per game, Sap. 120.4, I believe, points per game. And just absolutely putting on offensive shows every single night. And led by Jayson Tatum, who at this point in the season, and again, it's very early, is a legitimate MVP candidate. So I had concerns about the Celtics going into the season with that, cloud hanging over them from Ime Udoka and Joe Mazzulla taking over and Robert Williams being out to start the year. But so far, they've just been really ripping through teams with the exception of your Cleveland Cavaliers, Sap.
Right, 12-3. The two of the three losses came against Cleveland, both in overtime. Cleveland has kind of sunk a little bit the last 2 weeks, but they're still trying to find themselves. I think right now it's the Celtics, Milwaukee, and eventually Cleveland will be the top three teams in the Eastern Conference. You said it, Jet. Their offense has been incredible. They're averaging 120.4 points per game, but deeper than that, their offensive rating is number one in the league at 120 per 100 possessions, which is 1.2 points per possession, which is insane. They're also second in the league in two-point shooting percentage at 58%. They're fourth in the league in three-point shooting percentage at 39%, and they're second in the league in free throw shooting percentage at 84%. So this is like if we were going to compare it to an offense in football that had a really good running game, a good passing attack, an elite quarterback, a strong offensive line, weapons all over the place. Oh, by the way, they don't turn the ball over, and they're really good on third down and in the red zone. That's kind of what the Celtics have been so far through these first 15 games. Their offense has been elite. Bench guys are chipping in last night's win over the Atlanta Hawks. Luke Cornett, Sam Hauser, and Peyton Pritchard combined for 47 points in 76 minutes. I mean, it's just been incredible. There were 17 of 21 from the floor. 10 of 13 on threes. Actually, they scored 44 points. I don't want to exaggerate, but they were plus 47. That's what they were. They were plus 47 in 76 minutes. Heck, Hauser was a plus 35 in his time on the court. He leads the NBA in plus minus at plus 121, and he's only played 218 minutes. I've just given people way too many numbers there, but I love numbers, but
they're all good numbers.
They're good numbers for you, right? I mean, because the Celtics are playing that well. They're the best team in basketball right now, Jet. There's no question. I think Milwaukee settles in at number 2. And then after that, good luck, because the number 1 seed right now in the Western Conference is Portland. We don't expect them to be there all season long. But so far, the first month of the season, the Celtics have checked all the boxes. Again, led by Jayson Tatum, who is a legit MVP candidate. And right now, if I was voting for MVP, he'd be the guy.
Yes, Ep, the strange thing in terms of, looking at the conferences and stuff like that is the East, we expected Boston and Milwaukee to be at the top of things. In the West, it's Utah and Portland, so we didn't expect that. And then followed by New Orleans in the Western Conference. So 3 teams we did not imagine are going to be anywhere near the top. Whereas in the East, the 2 teams, and then the Raptors and the Hawks are following the Celtics and the Bucks right now. So somewhat predictable from the top 2 from in the East, but other than that, it's been all over the place. So, credit to the Bucks and the Celtics for being the 2 teams that have not been hit by that unpredictability bug to start the season. But Zap, getting more into the Celtics too, their defense hasn't been great to start the season, partially because they're scoring so much so quickly, like you said, the points per possession. But this comes from Sean Grande, the radio play-by-play voice of the Celtics, and now he's doing a lot of TV play-by-play too. This is what he tweeted out there. The first 9 games of the season, the Celtics ranked 23rd in defense, giving up 1.14 points per possession. But over the last 6 games, Sap, they have now they rank 4th, giving up 1.08 points per possession. So their defense is actually improving as well, while the offense is staying consistent. So last year, we all knew the calling card of the Celtics, especially as they went on their run to the title and ended up losing to Golden State. Their calling card was their defense. This year, it's their offense, but their defense is slowly but surely catching up a little bit. Oh, and they're going to get Rob Williams back at some point.
Right. You don't have your best defensive player in Rob Williams. He'll be back probably in a few weeks, maybe a month, whatever. I don't think you have to rush.
Now
him
they have
back
time, right? To
Absolutely.
bring him
back in the middle of January if that's the case. Whatever. Get him back, get him up to speed, and then have him fully healthy and in shape for the postseason. And now you can play outstanding defense. And I don't think he hurts your offense. I like Rob Williams as an offensive player. He's a really good passer, great around the rim. You can have that lob with him. Sets really good screens, and you got plenty of shooters around him. So I don't think he's going to hurt your offense. He's only going to help your defense. The defense has been getting better game by game by game, and that's going to be just fine. They lost the championship last year. They lost the finals to Golden State because of their offense, not because of their defense. Their defense was pretty good in the finals. They held Golden State to 104 points per game, and it was always right around there, right? If you look at the scores, Golden State would score 102 or 106 or 104. Like, they were always around 104. Golden State was very, very consistent in the finals at 104. The Celtics were up and down. The 2 games they won, they just blew doors. The 4 games they lost, they couldn't shoot. I think this team is better equipped to be that much better offensively. I think it starts with Jayson Tatum. He's just better than he was last year. You hope he's healthier than he was last year. I'm a little concerned with the fact that he's third in the league in minutes played. He's played more minutes than any player in the league since the bubble. To me, that's a compliment to the guy. He shows up and plays every single night on both ends. That's what a superstar does, but you just hope that they'll be able to give him some breaks here and there, maybe curtail his minutes a little bit in blowouts, give him a night off from time to time so that when you get to April, May, and hopefully June, you have a fresh, healthy player in Jayson Tatum. But I'm not worried about the defense. That'll be just fine. And offensively, they're just, they're hitting everything. And again, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, Luke Cornett, the game they had last night, are they going to duplicate that? No, but that is good to have coming off your bench in the regular season when you can give Tatum or Brown a night off and those guys can step in because you want to be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. You don't want to fall to the 4 or 5 seed when you're giving your stars the night off. So those guys can step in and help you win a ball game. And that's what they were able to do last night in Atlanta because Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum weren't great in that game, but those 3 guys certainly picked up the slack, and it was a really impressive win over a good team.
No, they weren't great last night, and they didn't have Marcus Smart or Malcolm Brogdon in that game either, Sap. And so, guys had to step up, and they did, and they ended up, like you said, blowing doors off a good Hawks team in Atlanta. I think that everybody's feeling really good in the Celtics locker room right now. Whatever Joe Mazzulla's offensive system is that he made, big changes from Ime Udoka's system is working. And also, credit to the players. I think most of the players up and down the roster, you could say, have improved. Malcolm Brogdon, they brought in, he's hurt right now, but he's been really great when he's played. Tatum, as you mentioned, has improved. Brown has improved. Even Pritchard, who hasn't played all that much, when he's been asked to play, has really stepped up and improved. And not just his shooting and offensive efficiency, he's rebounding the ball really well for a guard. So you can look up and down the roster at who's played. Luke Cornett, you mentioned him too, Sap. He's playing really good basketball too. They've all, I think, dedicated themselves in the offseason to getting better, and it's showing up on the court right now. And like you said, Jayson Tatum, legitimate MVP candidate if the season ended today, which is, it's not going to because it's 15 games in. You could say that he's the front runner. And so everything is going really well for the Celtics right now. And they, like I said, they're going to get Rob Williams back at some point, so they should get even better. I will agree with you, Sap, on the one point you made. The only worrying trend for the Celtics would be the amount of minutes that they're playing. Mazzulla, as a first-time coach, is still figuring out, okay, how can I get some guys some rest? Tatum's playing too many minutes. Brown is playing too many minutes. Horford especially is playing too many minutes. And that adds up as you go on a protracted run to the finals. And you had that finals run last year. These guys are going to get tired, so they have to figure out ways to be able to get guys a little bit of rest. The fact that the bench is playing so well, though, Sap, that is a big factor in being able to get those guys some rest.
I think you could steal some minutes, too, in these blowouts. I've seen so many times where the Celtics are up 15, 20 points. There was a game a week and a half ago against the Knicks. it was a no-doubter. They were up the entire game. They stretched it in the fourth quarter, and there was a minute left, and the Celtics were up by 17, 18 points, and Jayson Tatum was still on the floor. Like, that makes no sense to me. Get him off the floor, save some minutes, but also keep him out of harm's way of getting an injury. And the thing that's so impressive about Tatum, he has become the most durable superstar in this league, right? You look at his career, which started in 2017-18. That's his first year's rookie year. Since then, he's played 379 of a possible 404 games. He's only missed 25 games, and around half of them have been because of COVID. He's played in 94% of the possible games for the Boston Celtics. That's just so impressive to me. Meanwhile, Kawhi Leonard, from that period of time going forward, from 2017, 2018, same period of time, has played 180 of a possible 405 games, which is 44%. So Tatum is playing 50% percentage points more games than Kawhi Leonard. So it's more than double when you think about it, that, you know, it's more likely that Tatum plays than Kawhi Leonard, more than 2 times is likely. So that to me is the definition of a superstar. And he's doing it on the defensive end. He's scoring over 30 a game. He's getting 8 rebounds, 4 assists. He's stepping up to the challenge. He's efficient. I think he's the MVP of the league right now. I think it's he, Giannis, and Luka have kind of separated themselves. And I know it's early, but those 3 guys mean so much to their teams. Luka maybe not so much on the defensive end, but the man is a genius on offense. And of course, we know how good that Giannis is on both ends of the floor. So I think right now Tatum, because he's playing on the team with the best record, is the favorite. That can change, but right now, if I had a vote, it would be Jayson Tatum MVP. And if he wins it, don't be surprised.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a show soon on just how great Luka's start to the season is too, because I mean it's been ridiculous. I mean, unstoppable. Like you said, defensively, okay, he's not great. Everybody knows that, but offensively, it's absurd. And that roster, we're not gonna get too deep into it, sucks. That Mavericks roster is terrible.
Right.
And so he's a one-man band there. But yeah, we'll talk about Luka more on a later show. But yeah, so things are going great for the Celtics, Sap. So I'm very happy. But that's going to lead us to the Nets, where we talk about them seems like every show. Things looked like they were going a little bit better there, and that's until they got absolutely blown out the other day by, I think it was the Kings, right? That they got just destroyed by Sacramento. And Kevin Durant was interviewed by The Athletic, Sep. Or sorry, Bleacher Report? Was it Bleacher Report or
Bleacher Report, right.
Sorry, Bleacher Report. Chris Haynes, who's really, really plugged in. The players are very willing to talk to him. He's a really good reporter.
Mm-hmm.
So not surprised that he was able to get Durant to sort of open up here. And Durant was asked about this summer, about his trade request, and then sort of asked about the drama that's going on this season. But this was the real damning quote, Sap. Talking about what their rosters look like right now. He said, this is what Kevin Durant said, again, according to Bleacher Report. Look at our starting lineup. Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from that group? You expect us to win because I'm out there. So if you're watching from that lens, you're expecting us to play well because number 7, that's Durant's number, is out there. Oof, that's a tough quote, Sap. That's a really tough quote to come show up to work the next day and say, oh, guys, you don't understand. I was misquoted. That's not what I meant. The intention was different. I don't know how you spin that one, but if I'm Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, and Nick Claxton, I'm going, what the hell, Kevin? Because that's brutal. That's about as brutal of a quote talking about your teammates as I can remember reading.
Well, Kevin Durant's comp in the NFL is Aaron Rodgers, and I've said that for as long as we've known each other. To me, Rodgers and Durant are the same guy. Incredible players, all-time greats. I think Rodgers is the best pure passer I've ever seen. I think Durant is the most unstoppable scorer I've ever seen. But they don't measure up to Tom Brady and LeBron James in their respective sports because they don't have the leadership ability, the ability to try to get players to play at a higher level. I'm just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to chime in and say, yep, Kevin, I know exactly what you're talking about. My team is struggling. What can you expect? I'm throwing to Alan Lazard and a bunch of rookies and Sammy Watkins who can't stay healthy. So it's the same exact thing. What Durant said isn't wrong, right? I mean, we say it, but it's not really up to the superstar player to turn around and say it. He named names, to use a quote from, Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Normally you don't do that. You could just say, well, we don't have Kyrie Irving because he's suspended. He may come back this weekend if he buttons things up with owner Joe Tsai. You've got another player in Ben Simmons who I don't know if he wants to play basketball. Isn't it appropriate that Ben Simmons' stats so far this year, 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, the Devil's number? He's got to bump one of those up a little bit to get out of that headspace. But look, Kevin, you're the one that went to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving. You're the one who first wanted James Harden, got him traded there, and then traded him for Ben Simmons. So you're the de facto general manager. You kind of put this team together. Your best bud, Kyrie Irving's nowhere to be found, and Ben Simmons looks like he's ready to go, join the circus at some point. So a lot of this is on you. Look, I like when star athletes speak up, and Kevin Durant, this is awesome because it gives us content, and he's right. I wouldn't want to be his teammate, one of those 4 other starters who have to hear this and say, thanks, Kevin. We're trying our best. We're not as gifted as you. We know that, but we're trying our best. So rather than trying to pull all those guys up and be better, Durant's dissing on them at this point, and that doesn't work well. What are the Nets? 6-9, and they're a middling team at best right now, and I don't see any way out of this because is Kyrie going to come back, and how good is he going to be? I mean, he'll be marvelous and score 28 a game, but they don't seem to win more with him. They actually win more without him. He had a coaching change already, and it's not even Thanksgiving. And again, Ben Simmons is just going through the motions. So what the hell the Nets are? I mean, right now, I know we like to dump on the Lakers, and that's my team with LeBron, but, the Nets aren't much better. They're 6-9, and Golden State
Right.
6-9, the defending champs. So there's a lot of teams that you thought were going to be better that aren't, but the Brooklyn one is the most interesting because, there's no Kyrie, Ben Simmons sleepwalking, and now Kevin Durant essentially crapping all over his teammates. But that's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I think Sap, you nailed it in terms of what the most damning thing is that he named names. A lot of times you'll hear superstar players or star players in any sport say, this roster, we're going through a transition period or we're rebuilding or something like that. They don't name specific players. I can't even recall Aaron Rodgers doing that, Sap, saying, this specific receiver, this tight end. I don't know, man. That's again, the NBA, it's a small locker room because there's not many players on the roster. There's nowhere really to hide for Kevin Durant. Believe me, all these guys saw this. I do not know how you can show up to work the next day and look these guys in the face and feel like you have their trust as a teammate. Like it's just,
Sure.
He embarrassed them, Sap. I mean, really, these guys are, professional basketball players too, and they've worked hard to get here. And so they have to, wake up and read a Bleacher Report article of their own teammate crapping all over them. I mean, I don't know how you can possibly feel good or about Kevin Durant if you're those teammates, other than, okay, I get to play with Kevin Durant. He's awesome. But like, he clearly thinks all those guys stink. And so I don't know how you repair what's going on in Brooklyn, Sap. And it already may have been before this beyond repair, but that's just it's a terrible quote, terrible leadership. Yes, he's a tremendous player, all-time great. But like you said, Sap, he doesn't show any leadership ability. And now he's been in the league for a long time, and he's not matured as a leader at all.
No, not at all. And again, that comparison with Rodgers. Rodgers is generally passive aggressive. Like he'll roll his eyes if someone runs the wrong route or drops the ball or whatever. Durant will do that as well. But now Durant feels almost like the old guy that doesn't give a crap anymore and is unfiltered. You do reach an age where you just say things that you normally wouldn't say when you were younger because you don't care anymore. I think Durant's kind of at that stage. To some degree, so is Aaron Rodgers and probably Tom Brady and LeBron James and guys that have been around forever. Now, LeBron James has said in the past, our roster's too top heavy. He said that in his final year in Cleveland, but he never named names. He didn't, talk about how weak the bench was or whatever.
Right.
Michael Jordan referred to his teammates as the supporting cast. I thought that was dissing on his entire team. It's like, well, I'm here and a bunch of other guys, right? I mean, let's not disrespect Scottie Pippen, who's in the Hall of Fame and a great player in his own right, and other guys like
sure, but
Dennis
I'll say,
Rodman,
Sap,
Horace Grant. But that's what Jordan did. But again,
Going into
Jordan,
specifics, though, is different.
Jordan had no right. Specifics is different, and plus Jordan never got criticized. First of all, there wasn't social media when Jordan was playing. There weren't 24/7 sports talk radio. You didn't have Skip and Shannon debating for 3 hours about Jordan and LeBron or Colin Cowherd. You didn't have all of that when Jordan was playing. Plus, everybody just feared the guy. His teammates did, his opponents did, the media did. Everybody just was in awe of him. Look, they're not in awe of Kevin Durant or LeBron James or Aaron Rodgers or even Tom Brady, who's, as big a winner, if not a bigger winner than Michael Jordan. But times are different. So I get that. But yeah, you can't call out your four fellow starters and say, what do you expect from me? Look who I'm playing with, all this crap. That doesn't sit well. And look, maybe he wants to get traded. Maybe he's trying to get himself out of there. Is he George Costanza driving around in the parking lot wearing, was it Lou Gehrig or Babe Ruth's uniform and, smearing all over it?
Dragging the trophy from behind the car.
Dragging the World Series trophy. Yeah, maybe he just wants to get the hell out of there and go to Denver, the Lakers, or wherever else he could go. I'm sure there'll be plenty of suitors.
I mean, I do think he still wants to be traded. I don't think that, he rescinded his trade request because of anything the Nets have done. It's just that they, the price they were asking for was something that no team was willing to meet. But Sap, if I'm another layer to this too, is if I'm the players that he named, I'm going, well, why the hell isn't he naming Kyrie Irving? He's the guy who's been the least available. He's the guy who's caused most of these problems. He's going to bury us, but he's not going to bury his buddy. Like that's, that in and of itself is messed up too. Like who's most at fault for all the turmoil going on in Brooklyn the past couple of seasons? Kyrie. And Durant's going to, bash Joe Harris and Nick Claxton and Edmund Sumner and Royce O'Neal. I mean, those guys, what have they done besides actually show up to work, unlike Kyrie Irving, and play hard? So I would be pissed off about that too.
Yeah, without question. I mean, it's just a bad look, obviously. And it's finger pointing, which Durant's really good at. Look, he's had problems with teammates throughout his career, first with Russell Westbrook. I can get that because Westbrook's probably not the easiest guy to play with. Then he goes to Golden State, and I think Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are probably two of the easiest guys to play with. He had his problems with Draymond Green. I get that. Draymond Green can be an a-hole. If you just ask Jordan Poole about that. He decides to go to Brooklyn and goes along with his buddy Kyrie, who to me has a spell over Kevin Durant. It really does. Yeah. It feels like the Maharishi Yogi with, John Lennon or whatever. It's just like Kyrie Irving has a spell over his friends and feels like half the league, if not more. And then you bring in Harden, that doesn't work out. You bring in Simmons, that hasn't worked out. You wanted Steve Nash as the coach, that didn't work out. So now, you got Jacques Vaughn in there. I'm just waiting for Kevin Ollie to be the next guy to come in as head coach of the Nets. And I think he'd be a fabulous coach because I think Durant has a tremendous amount of respect for him because when Durant came into the league, Ollie was the veteran on Oklahoma City. And so, Durant and Harden and Westbrook all have an immense amount of respect for Kevin Ollie, which I still don't understand how he's not coaching in the NBA. But maybe the trade is going to have to happen. Look, Jet, don't you think at some point if the Nets continue to flounder and the Lakers continue to flounder, at some point they're going to open up talks that it would be Durant for Anthony Davis with whatever else you need to sprinkle in there? Because Davis is close with Kyrie Irving, right? They have a relationship. And at some point, Durant just goes to play with LeBron and says, well, let's run it and see what happens here. I mean, it almost feels like, two big action stars teaming up together late in their career to put together a great movie. If that ever happened, the interesting thing about this is if Durant ever went to the Lakers, LeBron would be criticized for that. When Durant went to the Warriors, Durant was criticized for that. And that just kind of shows you the national discourse of LeBron versus Steph Curry. Like Steph Curry doesn't get criticized. LeBron always gets criticized. Right. LeBron would get criticized if Durant forces his way to LA, whereas Curry didn't get criticized at all for Durant joining a 73-win team. That's a totally different topic. But at some point, don't you think the Nets and Lakers are going to be desperate enough to say, what the hell, let's make this move? What do we have to lose? We're floundering, and you go from there.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that Anthony Davis is the best offer that the Nets can get. I don't know that it necessarily is, considering I think he's, in terms of talent, he's probably the most talented player they can get, but in terms of reliability, he's not reliable at all. And, they already have a guy in Kyrie Irving who's not reliable at all.
And Ben Simmons. How would that be?
And Ben Simmons.
Trade?
So I'm
Anthony
saying
Davis,
three least reliable. Davis. Throw Kawhi in there, Sep.
Yeah, that's all you need is just the guys that don't play. Apparently, it's a great idea. Yeah, maybe Kawhi forces his way to Brooklyn, and you'd have 4 guys that don't play. It'd be like the island of misfit toys. So yeah, but something could happen, right? Because these teams get desperate and they say, why not? Like, because the Lakers can't make too many moves because they don't really have draft picks, or the ones they have, they don't want to give up. Brooklyn's going to have to do something at some point. I mean, these teams are hamstrung by these players, and meanwhile, the Celtics and the Bucks are just being run correctly and look unbeatable. And I think Cleveland's going to be there, and who the hell knows what happens in the Western Conference because it's all upside down. And again, it's not even Thanksgiving yet, so let's just hold on. As far as I think the Celtics are the best team, but let's not put them in the finals quite yet. Let's not forget they were 18-21 in January. Since then, they've been clearly the best team in basketball. So things can change. But man, Kevin Durant, I mean, to me, I love it because it's great content and it's him being, unfiltered. I love that. I like when athletes just say what's on their mind. Whether his teammates like it is a different situation, and they got to live with him, and he's got to live with them. But for us, more power to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for us, like you said, Sap. It's great for Skip and Chan. It's great for everybody who does sports talk shows or basketball shows, because it just gives you endless content. But how much do you think Joe Tsai is regretting having bought the Brooklyn Nets?
Man.
They must be, them and the Washington Commanders. Just, I mean, it's literally nonstop story and headache. They should just combine franchises at this point.
That'd be great. Yeah, maybe like
Brooklyn
a pickleball
Commanders
team, right? Yeah, the Brooklyn Commanders, a pickleball team. Yeah, he paid over $3 billion for it. Maybe he should have just waited and bought an expansive franchise, which may happen in Vegas or Seattle. Phoenix is now for sale, right? So maybe that would have been a better option. I mean, Brooklyn's still New York. It's a viable market. It's the number 1 market, although it's the number 2 team in the number 1 market. But when you put Durant and Kyrie together on the court, it still works, right? They're 2 marvelous players, but you just don't have a natural leader there. And
it
you
works
don't have
from
a coach.
In the same perspective that, seeing like, a big action movie, like works
It
like,
is,
oh,
right.
wow. Yeah. They both look like, wow, they both look great. The special effects are awesome, but is the movie that good? No, not really. It's just like, is the team that good? They don't, it's certainly not proving that on the court. They made it to as far as the second round of the playoffs. And yes, I know they almost knocked off the eventual champion Bucks if it weren't for Kevin Durant's giant feet, but they didn't. And that's as far as they've gone with this team, Sap. And that's not the expectation when you put those guys together. So it's not working out on the court either. Eventually, Durant is gonna, I think, get traded. I don't know if it's gonna be this season, next season, but I just can't see it lasting that much longer in Brooklyn. Real quick, Sap, before we wrap up, you did mention Ben Simmons, and we've talked about him too. And you mentioned his stat line too. I want to ask you this, because this isn't working at all. Is it a mental thing now, or is it an injury thing, Sap? What is the deal? Because career averages, Sap, he's averaged 15 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists basically for over his career, and fantastic defense. This year, as you mentioned, just under 6 points per game, 6 rebounds, and just under 6 assists per game. He's also shooting a career worth 47% from the free throw line. He has and he's shooting a career worth 48% from the floor. What's the deal?
It's lack of passion, lack of confidence, injury concerns. I mean, it's all kind of put together to the point where it just doesn't seem like he's comfortable on a basketball court. We've always questioned his love or lack of love for basketball, which obviously is always a concern with an athlete like that. But I just think that when you look at him, there's no confidence whatsoever. And at this point, is his career over?
He is, at this point, he's a below average player, right? I mean, those numbers indicate.
Oh, no, he's much worse than a below average player. Much worse than a below average player.
And he's a guy that you've liked in the past.
Oh, I have. The problem with him is one of his biggest assets has been his defense, right? I mean, he's an elite defensive player, a guy who can shut down pretty much any player that he faces, right? But he doesn't even do that. So this is like having a Gold Glove shortstop who no longer fields well, right? And let alone can't hit, can't steal bases, can't hit for power. So these are all things that are an issue
So the end
with
of Derek
Ben
Jeter's
Simmons.
career is what you're saying, basically.
Pretty much,
That's,
yeah. And there's actually a good comparison there because Simmons kind of looks a little like Jeter, doesn't he?
I
Just a
can see
taller
that.
version. Yeah.
Yeah, much
And
taller.
much taller. And Aaron Judge looks like Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, those guys. That's a good.
Those
call.
guys really
guys
look
very,
alike, and
very
actually
similar.
they're about the same height.
Yeah, about the same
Yeah.
height too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. You could do hours trying to speculate what the hell is going on with Ben Simmons, and we're not qualified to talk about it because we're not, shrinks. It's just, it's crazy how much he's fallen off in terms of, this was a guy talked about being a cornerstone of a franchise. And like you said, he's far below he's below average player at this point, in his career. And he's not old. He's 26, so it's not like he's hit that wall in terms of age. It's just, something is wrong with him. He's got the yips on yips and some injuries. I don't know what the deal is, or if he'll ever be anything close to what the promise of him was, but it's not good. Everything in Brooklyn is ugly, Sap. There's not a bright, shiny thing you can point to right there if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan. And I'm sure they're hemorrhaging fans on a daily basis. People are leaving to join the Knicks, where it's not much better. In basketball in New York, tough times for basketball in New York, Sap.
Adopt another team. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, there you go. Just do what Sap does. Pick a player, follow that player around there over the course of their career. That's going to do it for us here, Sap, at the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. Thanks to Full Press Coverage. You can check out our social medias at JohnSap25, at Jet Stryer. You can find the show wherever podcasts are found. Just type in the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with Jet and Sap. Find it on YouTube too if you're not watching there already. YouTube.com/Jet Stryer. And we will be back with at least one more show before Thanksgiving, Sap. Do you think that's a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. Let's target before Thanksgiving, and we're almost at the quarter pole at that point, right? So we'll talk more about the Celtics continuing this long winning streak and seeing what the hell's going on in Brooklyn. Maybe Kyrie Irving resumes his play. What's going on with the Lakers? I mean, we're just following these teams like the Lakers, the Nets, the Warriors to a lesser degree, because they tend to get things right at some point, but it's like following train wrecks at this point.
Are you not excited for a potential Celtics Utah Jazz NBA Finals where it's the Danny Ainge Bowl?
No, not at all. I picked Cleveland and Denver. I'd love to see the Celtics there. I think it's an awesome story. And Denver didn't look impressive when they came in to face the Celtics at TD Garden, but Jamal Murray is going to take time for him to get up to speed, to get up to being the player he was before that injury. And, there's only so much that the Joker can do. He's fantastic. But I still think Denver is going to be a factor in the West. And I do think Cleveland will be a factor in the East. It's just taking a little time now that Darius Garland's back with Donovan Mitchell. When you have two players who are somewhat similar, right?
Yeah.
They're both smaller guards, more lead guards than point guards or off guards. It's going to take a little while for that chemistry to work. But I think they'll be right there along with the Celtics and Milwaukee, obviously, in the Eastern Conference.
Yep, and then against the Blazers and the Jazz in the West are the clear
right, exactly.
now.
Just like 5 years too late.
Yep, those break up the Jazz. That's they're a juggernaut right now. Exactly what Danny Ainge was hoping for to start the season.
It's like the movie Major League, right? Trying to lose, then they win.
What's that, or the producers, right?
Same thing. Yeah, that was going way back, 1968 with Zero Mostel.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Mel Brooks.
Me too. And he's still alive. God bless him.
I know. Keep going. Yeah. Keep on rolling,
Keep
Mel.
going. Yep.
All right, Sap. We come back later. Thanks for listening, everybody. See ya.